Hi everyone, and welcome to the latest ATTA webinar. Today's webinar is a brief introduction to Touch Down DMC, and then a presentation on amazing South Africa as both a leisure and corporate destination, introducing two essential South African scheduled tours. Today's speaker is Angela Iacovazzo. Prior to joining Touch Down DMC as head of international sales and product development, Angela was the general manager of Global Client Services at Sundown Travel, a member of ATG Global. Angela has over 25 years of experience in the travel industry, in management positions, in corporate, in leisure, procurement, and sales, both inbound and outbound travel. So just a little bit of housekeeping before Angela starts with the presentation. If you have any questions, please make sure to type them in the Q&A box at the bottom of your screen instead of the chat box. And like every webinar, you will receive a recorded version at the end of this webinar. So yeah, now we're ready to go. Angela, over to you for a presentation.
Thank you very much, Sarah. Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you for joining us on this presentation. I look forward to sharing a little bit about South Africa and the essential Southern Africa destination. Right, without further ado, I'll go through to the first slide and actually introduce our organization, who we are. Touch Down DMC is a recognized destination management company. They've been around for 8 years. They were founded in 2012. And they currently operate in 5 countries, South Africa being the head office. We then have offices in the United States of America, Indonesia, Croatia, Hungary, and just to actually let you know that you can actually see that there are the logos at the bottom, very, very important in terms of accreditation. We're members of SATSA, which is the governing body with regards to tours in our country. Naturally, we are actually with ATTA, and then in America with ASTA. A list of our services, okay, we provide a wide range of services. From a leisure perspective, we do the FITs, we're well versed in FITs, well versed in series tours, and then also putting together groups. From a corporate perspective, groups can actually be in both leisure and corporate, and that's why I'm duplicating it in my presentation. We actually are able to do groups, incentives, and conferencing. The hallmark of any itinerary, be it corporate or leisure, is the attention to detail and the knowledge of product. Essentially, what you're actually doing when you work with an organization is entrusting us with your reputation. And I'd like to assure you, in terms of our services, okay, anything we actually offer would incorporate the knowledge with regards to internal flights, the best in terms of transfers, because we select our suppliers incredibly carefully, the relevant coach, I apologize, the relevant vehicle and coach hire, and then obviously tour guides. I'm not going to run through this slide further because there is a duplication in the presentation where I highlight more. But I think the thing that I'd like to leave you with is anything is possible. At the end of the presentation, I'm hoping you actually get a copy of our tour book, okay? And in it, we have a number of our daily excursions or which I regard as the ingredients of any good tour. And I think once you page through that, you'll have an indication, be it an FIT where you want something special and different that caters to whatever need, or be it a series tour where you actually have a particular demographic that you actually adjust a tour to your brief, or be it a group where you want something special with different dining facilities. We are able to actually do that and ensure that we vetted and advise you of the best possible options. What sets us apart? In our first slide, I ran through the fact that we actually have global reach. We've got our own sales teams and teams in said offices. And I think the benefit in terms of our clientele is they've actually got access to the best in terms of South African knowledge, but also where they're actually dealing with people that actually understand their culture, are in their time zone, and actually understand the intricacies of that local market to best take a brief, to best work with our actual clients. We pride ourselves on our highly skilled staff. Without giving my, well, I have given my age away, 25 years of experience does that. But in terms of our team, they are solid travel professionals. We actually, I think anybody who goes into travel or hospitality battles to leave that arena. And those skills are at the disposal of our clientele. In terms of the itineraries, I think it's very important to be creative. There is always the need for the quintessential or the essential tour, but by and large, there is also, people are more demanding. They do have certain things that they need to actually work in niche markets, and we are actually comfortable working with that. We adhere to the relevant security protocols. I think in terms of the current world, and we will touch on it in the next slide, COVID-19 would fit in there. But even prior to that, I think that there are certain elements within a tour that are essential. One needs to actually ensure that the considerations with regards to tours comply with the best practices of the UNWTO, where you actually are looking at sustainability, where there is ethics, where there is cultural respect and social responsibility. And in terms of those, we do our best to comply and offer that to our clientele. I'm going to run through COVID, as I said, in the next slide in more detail, so I'm not going to touch on that right now. With regards to cutting edge technology, as a client, you want to be able to actually know that you're dealing with a company that has standardized itineraries, that actually is electronic, and we utilize Tour Plan and Where To, which actually enables our clients to have up-to-date content in terms of their itineraries, interactive content. It's in a convenient web portal, which actually assists clientele with the marketing process. And in terms of Tour Plan, efficiencies are money. And the reality is you want a company that actually automates sales to operations to accounting. And in terms of Touchdown, it is something that is incredibly highly valued. With regards to customer care, we are available 24/7, 365 days of the year. When we have guests in our country, we understand the importance of ensuring that we extend not only our customer service, but also our hospitality to actually ensure that our guests are taken care of. If there are emergencies, we can actually deal with them. If there are on-ground changes due to weather, that we can actually ensure that the experience is a favorable one. Our assurance to you: any tour is made up with safe, reliable transport, and I'd like to assure you that in addition to our own fleet of vehicles, we actually ensure that the vehicles we utilize meet the safety criteria for the actual industry. It's well-maintained vehicles driven by expert drivers to ensure your guests are safe. We only use experienced guides that are registered. We operate in a number of countries, so we are able to actually offer a number of languages. We're able to also offer clients that are actually sensitive to various demographics, because we do religious tourism with regards to food requests or even seeing some of the religious sites in South Africa. A number of us have booked our own hotels, gone on the web and arrived, and it doesn't look like the website. with all hotels we actually use, we ensure the hotels are vetted. We ensure that we actually have a full complement of hotels for a variety of price ranges in different parts of South Africa that actually will enhance any stay in our country. We have industry-related terms, and in the current market, I think that it's changing. There's a lot of dialogue that's currently happening with regards to terms and conditions. Each country, each market actually has different terms and conditions in terms of, do you defer travel in the event that there is an issue, or do you actually refund? What I'd like to share with you in terms of that is, as members of SATSA, we are part of the dialogue that is occurring within government, within South Africa, with our international partners, to ensure that with every crisis, we don't rest on our laurels. While our terms and conditions are favourable in terms of how we operate, we constantly actually are engaging in dialogues to actually ensure that our offering is adjusted as the needs and the situations in the world change. COVID-19, I think, has been a shock for everybody. And particularly in a destination like South Africa, we've had the opportunity to actually not be at the front end of it and actually see what has been done in other countries. And we've, as a country or as an industry, we've been working very, very closely with government based on UN guidelines to get preparation ready for that day that we actually open. Some of the discussions that are actually being held would include the hotels to actually ensure that the actual cleaning standards meets the relevant requirements for this pandemic, that ozone machines are actually put into place, that we've thought of what we do with regards to food, with regards to transport, that there is the necessary cleaning requirements, as well as temperature taking and social distancing. And I go into that amount of detail to reassure you that there are 4 protocols that have been presented to government. That is what we'll actually implement when we actually open. But should the requirements or needs change based on the UN, we are fully ready to actually work and adjust said protocols to ensure the safety of all guests. Okay, now we get down to the exciting part, and that's South Africa. The term I'm actually going to use as a vehicle to present this to present South Africa is our Essential South Africa tour. It embodies, I think, the best of what one should see as a first-time visitor to South Africa. You can see we've got this beautiful Table Mountain, this beautiful picture of Table Mountain, flat-topped mountain, which actually is the first view a guest would have when entering or South Africa, or when entering Cape Town. Cape Town is the second most populous city in South Africa after Joburg. It's the legislative capital, and it's where the parliament actually sits. As you can see from the picture, you can see that it is one of the more beautiful regions in the world. It's one of the few places that actually combines ocean and mountain. I am biased, and I'm delighted to be able to share a little bit about our Cape to Kruger tour, which is the first tour somebody should do in South Africa. South Africa is an amazing destination. When choosing it, I always like to share a little bit about why South Africa. And what we actually have is 25 marine protected parks, which is most of the coastline. While it's not part of the tour that I'm actually presenting, guests at a second tour would be able to do our St. Lucia estuaries, right down to other marine parks. We have 133 nature reserves, 7 frontier conservation areas, and 21 national parks. in terms of the UNESCO heritage sites, those are actually incredibly interesting in that a number of them are reasons people actually would come to South Africa, from Robben Island right down to the unique fauna in our Eastern Cape. As I said, I'd use this vehicle, this tour's vehicle to cover South Africa. It is the two destinations that are the most popular, the Cape to Kruger, both for corporate and leisure, and by corporate I mean the MICE industry. And particularly in our 9-day tour, it allows you to explore Cape Town, which has a history that spans from 1652. It allows you to visit iconic structures like Table Mountain, Cape Point, and Kirstenbosch, which I hope to share a little bit more information with you on. And then also the Kruger National Parks and the Greater Kruger National Parks. As discussed in the first slide, we offer superb transportation that is safe, reliable. You can actually see one of the hallmarks in terms of our standard tours is that they're far more intimate, they're smaller groups, there are 6 of them, but there's more to a tour than the actual transport that gets you to and from a destination, particularly in MICE and in FIT experiences. And we're able to arrange bike rides to Cape Point or helicopter rides to actually view the beautiful scenery or do picnics in scenic parts of South Africa. Accommodation, as I said before, is pretty spectacular. I think one of the nice things about South Africa as a destination is we refurbish our hotels frequently. We've got excellent hotels. I've been lucky enough to travel frequently, and I can honestly tell you our hotels are value for money. They are beautifully located, beautifully turned out, and the attention to detail is there. In this particular tour, this is the accommodation that would be actually used on a 4-star tour. You can actually see in the City Hotel, it's right outside the waterfront. It's a lovely property, brand new, part of an international brand. And then in terms of the Kruger National Park area, or the Greater Kruger area, it's a luxury lodge, because part of being in the bush doesn't mean you have to actually rough it. It does mean that you can actually unwind in a beautiful setting with all the comforts from home. I think based on the available access to fresh produce and plentiful produce in terms of food, meat, and all the vegetables, South Africa is an amazing destination. We literally have some of the best meals and qualities of meats. There's a huge amount of creativity in terms of the food. You have the local South African food right down to influences from Europe, most notably the Dutch, the French, and the Portuguese in terms of our cuisine. And food's a vital component of any tour, be it corporate, be it a incentive or a conference. And we take that very seriously in terms of the offering. We have a plethora of choice with regards to what we can offer. Award-winning restaurants that we can actually take you through in the most beautiful settings. On your first day of arrival, one of the things we like to actually look at doing in consultation with our clientele is to actually take them to Kirstenbosch. Now, Kirstenbosch is an important botanical garden. It's nestled at the foot of Table Mountain. It cultivates and has a strong cultivation of local plants, indigenous plants, and it is has one of the 5 of the 6 biomes in South Africa. I've said to you before that there's a strong emphasis on indigenous plants. Some of the exhibits that you can actually enjoy are proteas, which is our national flower, and cycads. It's a restful, beautiful part of the world. It's located in the southern part of the city, southern part of Cape Town, and it's easy accessible. It has some superb restaurants on site for those who want to hike and walk, major walking activities. Alternatively, if you want a buggy, that remains an option. It really is a very special part of the world, and I highly recommend it. No tour is complete without a trip up Table Mountain. Table Mountain is listed as one of the 7 new wonders of the world, and it's always something we do fairly early on in a tour to ensure, based on weather conditions, that it's not something that is missed. Effectively, it's a 5-minute trip that you would actually take to the top of this beautiful mountain, and then have the opportunity to explore the top of the mountain, to actually take in the fauna, to take in the beautiful view of the city. There's a fair amount of wildlife that's actually on there, plant species, most notably the Dussie, which is a rock rabbit in terms of the animal life. And you're 3,500 feet above sea level. So effectively, it offers the most spectacular view of the actual city. For our historians, nothing is quite complete without going to the Company Garden area. Now, Company Gardens is the oldest garden in Cape Town. It was established in 1655, while today it's filled with beautiful flowers, lined with trees. You have Egyptian geese, you have squirrels, and a number of wildlife. In the past, in 1650, it was originally a vegetable garden for the colony, for the passing ships, to actually assist them with food and with water. It also houses the Ezekiel Museum and the National Art Gallery. But at the foot and the entrance of the actual Company Gardens, what you would have there would be Parliament and Tannhäuser, which are adjacent to each other, and then St. George's Church, which was the church that Archbishop Desmond Tutu used to actually denounce apartheid and to bring about change. So it's a very, very special part of the world. In this tour, you'd also, as we mentioned, see South African Parliament. We've covered where it's actually located. It's a neoclassical building. It's honestly worth seeing, particularly from the park. You're actually seeing the back part of the Parliament. Our tour would then take you to another essential site, which would be the Green Market Square. It was established. It's the second oldest public gathering. I think it was built in 1696. But today, it's a lively part of the actual city. It's the opportunity for you to actually purchase some of the local memorabilia. It has street markets. It has a number of lively shops on either side. And it's a very popular tourist destination and place for people to actually go and see what is there on the art scene. There are also a number of parades that actually take place there. Completing our history, we always take you through to the Cape of Good Hope. It's a fort that was built in the 17th century, and it houses the Military Museum. A particular first day like this would be a tour that is actually your standard tour with regards to scenes and elements that you actually should see on a first day. Most of it is evenly paced. It's an amazing experience. And we ended off with an interactive dinner theatre and African cuisine, where you have the opportunity to try 16 different African dishes while interacting with the actual performers. My personal favorite is the winelands. I think it's the marriage of architecture, natural beauty, good food, and a splendid time. There are 3 winelands in the area, okay, and that would be your Stellenbosch, Paarl, and Franschhoek. This tour covers 2. So you'll start off with a historical tour of Stellenbosch. Stellenbosch was the 2nd largest town that was, or the 2nd oldest town that was built after Cape Town. And it's maintained the look and feel of its original setting fairly well, while still actually adjusting to the changes and developments that any country would actually go through. It's a popular university town. It's got a number of eateries, but there's a number of historic buildings. And we tend to like to do a 90-minute walking tour to acquaint you to the actual developments in that area, because it basically allows us in a very interactive way to actually share history or colonial history with regards to people. We then actually go off to a premier wine estate, which is nestled between the Franschhoek and the Stellenbosch area, Dalé Wine Graf Estate. They've got some excellent wines, and you will have the opportunity to try them. They also have the largest art museum outside, or private art museum in South Africa. There's the opportunity to actually look at that if you want, but that would be an add-on in terms of a tour. But that you have the opportunity to see some spectacular views, try one of the best Chardonnays, in my opinion, prior to actually embarking on your next tour to Boschendal. At Boschendal, another historic estate, you have the opportunity to enjoy a picnic lunch. What's notable in terms of the wine farm areas, it actually attracts some of the best chefs and has access to the freshest and best produce. You'd go through to the Rhone garden, you'd be seated, there's the option to be seated at a table, or you can actually have a picnic, a traditional picnic without a table on the other side of the estate, and would be given your wine your food basket and enjoy a leisurely lunch in the sun, taking in the scenery, nestled under the mountain ranges of that area. Once that has been completed, you would have the opportunity to actually see the manor house if that's something you would like to see, and actually also then we have scheduled tours in terms of a Boschendal cellar tour, and then a newie is the Boschendal wine and chocolate tasting, which basically pairs wine and chocolate together, and the chocolate's actually produced in that area. So, and the wines have been actually, and the chocolate was produced to complement the wines. They'd talk through that actual experience, and it's an interactive experience. You'd have the opportunity to purchase wine if you want. They're on this historic estate before departing for Franschhoek. Franschhoek internationally is known as the foodie capital of South Africa. It's an incredibly special area. It's an area where the French Huguenots settled. The French Huguenots were basically the French that were settled here based on persecution in Europe, and were moved to Belgium, and Belgium relocated them to South Africa, and Franschhoek took in a number of them. And that basically accounts for the very French flavor of that area, and a number of the monuments in that area that bear testament to that heritage. What I think is notable is brioche, which is French. We have a similar thing in South Africa, which is mosbolletjies. You see that actually come through, that knowledge in terms of the vines, the knowledge in terms of the foods that actually is prevalent in this town. It's a quaint, small town. With regards to this particular town, you would have the opportunity to stroll up and down the streets. You would have the opportunity to go and see some of the best art works from local artists. look at various curios, take in old churches. It honestly is an unexpected treasure based on the fact that it has such a strong French heritage. Once you've had the opportunity to spend some time and explore Franschhoek town, we would then take you through to a grand estate, Grand Provence, where you would have a wonderful meal in the old world order with a wine pairing, all nestled in this beautiful neck of the wood before departing back to Cape Town. The last essential part of, I think, any tour is Cape Point. It is without a doubt one of the most scenic areas to actually drive. From Cape Town, okay, to Hout Bay, it is pretty much like the Riviera. It's Cape Town's Riviera. You have an incredible, beautiful stretch of coast that's connected by some of the most picturesque scenic drives, where you would actually drive down en route to Hout Bay. The properties in that area, based on the views, have incredibly high prices and are well sought after. En route, you'd be able to see the magnificent slopes of Lion's Head. You'd actually be able to take in the 12 Apostles, and prior to actually getting through to Hout Bay, some of the suburbs you would actually pass would be Murley Point, Green Point, Sea Point. You'd go past Banshee Bay and Clifton, Llandudno, which is a well-known nudist beach. We won't be stopping there, but well, going down to the beach, but there is a stop where you can actually take some divine pictures of the actual area. And then you would eventually arrive in Hout Bay. Hout Bay gets its name from the wood that was in the area. Literally, the literal translation is Wood Bay. Once you're there, you would have the opportunity to board a boat, charter cruise to Seal Island, and it's basically, you would view the African fur seal, okay, that is situated. On average, our fur seals are roughly 2.5 meters long. They're about between 300 and 120 kilos, and they swim in the warmer waters of South Africa or lays on this little island. So it's a brief ride from there to actually view these seals before actually moving on. The diet of these animals is made up of fish, and they're available year-round. Some of the more interactive opportunities you can actually do in certain parts is to actually swim with seals, and that is something one can actually arrange, but it is not part of any standard tour. Once you've completed your tour or your boat trip out to visit these amazing animals, you'd proceed on to Chapman's Peak. Now, it is a route that one would take to actually get to Cape Point, and Chapman's Peak is the western side of the Cape Peninsula. It's roughly located between Hout Bay and Noordhoek, and it represents an engineering feat, because basically the mountain was hacked out between 1915 and 1922 to create this roadway into that area. It's also well known as part of the route of the Two Oceans Marathon and the Cape Argus. It also offers some of the most spectacular views. You would then carry on, okay, and move on to Boulder's Penguins. Boulder's Penguins is where you would be able to actually, it's a conservation area. It's a conservation area where you can actually spend some time not interacting, In years gone by, you could, but now they've actually built wooden walkways so that you can actually spend some time with the Cape penguin. Interesting thing about penguins, they are one of the animals that thrive in captivity. Not that I'm advocating it, but they are. They're a very, very special little species. I don't know if you've all had the opportunity to see them on YouTube. A number of them have been walking around Simonstown in this area. Curious, wonderful little animals. And by going through to boulders, the actual fees support the conservation efforts with regards to these birds that have built colonies in this area. On average, the birds are roughly 2 to 3 kilos, and you get quite close to them to view them. Thereafter, no day is complete without a lunch at a scenic restaurant en route before you actually depart to Cape Point. Cape Point is literally about 30 minutes away after your boulders. It's not a far drive, and it's the southeast corner of the Cape Peninsula. It basically is situated within the Table Mountain National Park, and it's often referred to as the Cape of Good Hope. It covers the whole southern tip of the Cape Peninsula, and generally it's wild, unspoilt, undeveloped fauna as well as waters. You have the opportunity to actually take a brief ride up to the top, spend some time at the lighthouse, get some superb pictures, and take in the views. Years ago, it was mistakenly claimed to be the place where the cold Benguela current and the Atlantic Ocean's Agulhas current met, but that is not so. However, it does not detract from the spectacular merging of those waters. Okay. While this isn't in our tour, I just wanted to share a little bit about some of the other activities that you could actually do were you to actually come to Cape Town. Before I get on to adventure tourism, because I can see the sharks quite exciting, I want to actually take you through the Cape Malay area. South Africa has a rich, diverse background in terms of the immigrants that came in different layers to that actual country. Part of the Malay community that actually came through came from Indonesia. While they are often referred to as Malay, they came from Indonesia. Most were very educated people. They were political prisoners of the Dutch East Indian Company. So they might have misbehaved a little bit in their own country verbally and were sent through to the colonies. And that's how this area was established. The end result is that you've got a beautiful area with an exciting culture, and also this area represents the birthplace of Islam, this area and Makassar. In terms of our diversity, as you can see, we operate in a number of markets. We operate in Indonesia, which is a large Muslim population. We offer a tour that actually caters to that, incorporating all these beautiful favorites that I've taken you through, your quintessential day of Table Mountain and the highlights in Cape Town, your Cape Point Day, where you actually take in the peninsula, and then also, should clients want to go through to the countryside, not necessarily do the wine tasting, our Muslim clientele is able to do it. However, we are able to customize and incorporate the burqa, incorporate halal food and cultural things that are pertinent to various demographics. You may have seen the burqa picture, which are these colorful houses. When Prince Harry and Duchess Meghan came through to South Africa, I think there were a number of pictures in this area, and it is literally 3 minutes away from the waterfront. It's an exciting, beautiful, vibrant, rich area. For those that prefer adventure tourism, animal tourism, South Africa is the mecca in terms of that. And the next component of what I'm going to take you through will incorporate that. In terms, one of our most popular add-ons, okay, is shark cage diving. The great white is an apex predator. We have an abundance, like Australia and other countries, of those, and we work hard to source the most reputable product offerings in this arena. We are able to actually offer shark cage diving for those who actually are interested, and we do our utmost to select the most reputable ones that are affiliated to international standards. We also have whales, one of the few places in the world where you can actually watch whales from the coastline in the Hermanus area. Generally, in terms of the whales, okay, they aren't there. You do have certain whales all year round, but the most prolific amounts are generally there June to September. Okay, that brings to an end our Cape Town portion. Now on to Johannesburg. The majority of clientele want to actually go through, see our historical past in terms of Soweto, and also spend a day in Johannesburg. I use this slide to actually show you that Johannesburg is a cosmopolitan mega city. It's large, it has a lot to offer, and in the broader spectrum of it, you have Soweto. So our quintessential tour would actually have you fly into Johannesburg. You would then be able to actually, once you've checked in, go through to Soweto. Soweto would be the home point, okay, of Vilakazi Street. It's probably the most well-known street in South Africa, in Soweto, if not South Africa. And what it's famous for is it is the, I think, the housing point for not one, but two Nobel Peace Prize winners, Nelson Mandela and Desmond Tutu. So you would have the opportunity to explore Vilakazi Street with a guide with you at all time before departing for a lunch in Soweto. We generally have 2 restaurants that offer traditional African food in the actual tour, before guests actually go visit Mandela's family home. Now, the Mandela Family Museum is the house that him and his wife originally lived in. You can see the scars in terms of the turmoil on the walls of the actual home, and it is the home of the most famous political prisoner and our first president of our democratic South Africa. Just up the street, not to be outdone, you then have Desmond Tutu's house, which is in walking distance, and then the Hector Peterson Memorial, which is just round the corner, which relates to the 1976 student uprising. Once guests have had the opportunity to see this iconic museum, we then go to the Apartheid Museum, which is located in the south of Johannesburg, more in the Gold Reef area as opposed to Soweto, and basically take in the history of apartheid. It's a guided, interactive, informative tour of this particular area, and following the path of this movement, you would then actually go through to Constitutional Hill, which is located in central Johannesburg, and spend some time at this prison complex. On offer there is the opportunity to see the cell that Nelson Mandela was in, to actually see prison objects from the past, and just have the opportunity to peek into this part of history. We tend to then take you through to Sandton. Sandton offers a different part of the South African journey. It's an affluent suburb. In terms of Sandton City, it's one of the largest shopping meccas in Africa, and an entertainment complex. If you actually look at the slide, you can actually see the bronze statue of Nelson Mandela in front of Nelson Mandela Sandton Square. As I said to you before, apart from the opportunity to actually enjoy the entertainment, the world-class shopping, it's also a place where you can have superb food, explore the current culture of South Africa as well. Were we to look at customizing your tour, if you actually look at the bicycles at the bottom, a popular offering is also to actually look at cycling through Soweto, particularly with a number of our North American clientele. It is something a number of the students like to do. So were we to look at the MICE part of the business, it is something we could actually offer. And then the Twin Towers in terms of, is the last picture that I show you, also from Soweto. After you've had the opportunity to sleep, our next component in a tour is a scenic country drive to Dullstroom. Dullstroom's about 2.5 to 3 hours away from Johannesburg, takes you through to Mpumalanga. It's a premier fishing destination, and it offers some of the most beautiful countryside. We take you there, you'd have the opportunity to rest. We own our own resort in that area, an equestrian estate. You'd have the opportunity to fly fish should you choose, cycle should you choose, rest, utilize the spa, or alternatively, if you're a culture vulture like me, explore the town, which is quaint and historic and steeped in Anglo-Boer history as well as other history. There are a number of eateries in that area, beautiful antiques on offer, lovely art shops that you could actually explore, or just actually purchase some of the actual local delicacies also. I think that it's very important in terms of any tour to actually have the opportunity to rest before you migrate onto the scenic panorama drive. This component of the tour generally takes a day and a half. The picture that I've actually presented you with is the actual Blader River Canyon complex. And in that complex, you've got God's Window, okay, which would offer the most amazing panoramic views of the Lowveld. You've got the Lisbon Falls, which is the highest waterfall in the Mpumalanga area at 94 meters. And then Bork's potholes, which would be potholes where water had eroded the actual bedrock of a river before actually coming out on the other side, which is closer to the gaming area or the Greater Kruger area. If you look at this picture, you'll see 3 rondavel-like structures, and that's just 3 little round mountaintops. There are a number of people who it honestly is one of the most scenic drives to embark on, and it's a wonderful thing to do en route to the Greater Kruger area. No tour to Africa is complete without an African safari. Now, you have the Kruger National Park, and then you have the Greater Kruger area. The Greater Kruger area it has some of the best viewing, some of the best lodges, and the opportunity to see the Big Five. For those of you who don't know what the Big Five are, it would be your lion, your leopard, your rhino, your buffalo, and your elephant. We tend to actually select various lodges in that actual area with a view to ensure that we utilize properties that contribute positively to conservation, okay, that actually have experienced guides that can enhance your experience and ensure that you actually see said animals. And then also, because the distances are so vast in South Africa, one of the areas that we tend to use quite extensively is the Hoedspruit area. And this particular picture comes from a lodge in that area. I think the positive in terms of it is that they have highly active children programs, which I think talks to family tourism, which is going to be on the up and up very soon. They've got experienced guides. It's fully inclusive because there's nowhere to go to actually purchase your food. You're in the bush. And you can actually avail yourself of 3 sunrise game drives, 3 sunset game drives on this actual tour, and breakfast, lunch, dinners, and non-premium beverages are included. Just to actually ensure that you're suitably exciting, these are some of the pictures from said game lodges portfolio. You can see they've got wonderful elephant populations, they have leopard, and they have lions. It really is a worthwhile game lodge and a beautiful, restful experience. Whilst on the safari portion, in addition to the game drives during the day, you have the opportunity to relax, you have the opportunity to utilize the spa facility should you so choose. The actual lodge would also have activities you could choose to take part on, which are optional. There are bushwalks that you could actually embark on, or you could actually even do a sleep out, should that be something you want. Okay, that slide brought us through to the end of our South African experience. I think that what I'd like to say is that in terms of the South African experience, your quintessential tour is always a safari. It always is a stop in Johannesburg, where our clientele tend to want to actually look at seeing the history of apartheid, or alternatively the modern city. From a corporate perspective, Johannesburg and Cape Town are the 2 cities where a number of the meetings, incentive groups and events take place for the business component. For the Cape Town perspective, it's Winelands, it's the city tour. But once you've had the opportunity to go through my booklet, you'd be able to actually see that we can customize it in any way, or alternatively, in terms of the tour that you actually just saw, it is a scheduled tour. It is something that you're able to offer clientele, should you so choose. If you're going to travel that far to South Africa, I always recommend people see the Victoria Falls. I've been a very, very lucky girl. I've had the opportunity to see the Niagara Falls, and I've also had the opportunity to see the Victoria Falls. And there's something majestical about the Victoria, all falls for that matter, but for me, it is an exceptionally special, beautiful place. It's magnificent on a scale one cannot comprehend. Generally, with regards to the falls, you have 2 options in terms of how it's located. If you actually look at the map, you have the Zambia or the Zimbabwe option. And we're comfortable accommodating people on both sides of the actual falls, so to speak. The Victoria Falls, from a knowledge perspective, okay, is on the Zambezi River. You can see that it actually is the border between Zambia and Zimbabwe. It's also listed as one of the 7 natural wonders of the world. So were you to include this with your Table Mountain, you would have done 2 wonders, okay? And it is the largest waterfall in the world. It is affectionately known as the smoke that thunders, and that's based on the spray that you can actually see from the various properties. We offer a 2-day, 3-day and 4-day tour of this iconic area. We ensure that the hotels we select, be it on the Zambian or the Zimbabwean side, meet criteria, are easy with regards to visa requirements, and we believe in a detailed brief with regards to it. But if you have a client ever that is coming to South Africa, it is highly recommended that they do the 2-hour flight and visit this neck of the wood. Some of the things they would be able to actually experience, okay, apart from the walks on the actual bridge between the two areas, okay, would actually be a swim as per those people on the devil side of the pool. They would actually be able to look at enjoying that. In order to do this particular swim, you actually are going to have to take a river cruise to the Livingston Island, then swim to the top or walk through the top to actually avail yourself of this swimming experience. For those who are scared of heights, there is also the Angel pool, which is basically at a lower level. In terms of the bridge, okay, it is a renowned bungee jumping area. There is that opportunity. From a dining perspective, if people want to actually take a locomotive train for a dining experience in that area, these are things we can actually arrange. But I'm sure you will agree that these are spectacular views with regards to the Vic Falls. That brings me to the end of my presentation. I look forward to taking your questions, sharing a bit of knowledge in terms of the area. I've left my details here. Currently, with the lockdown, I'm probably more accessible on my mobile number, which is the 082-350-3755 number. But you'll note that my email address is there, and I'll reread it to you. It's angela@touchdowndmc.com. And I've left the website and the necessary contact details in terms of our portfolio, as well as my contact details. I'd like to thank you for spending this hour with me and allowing me to actually present a little bit of my of the Cape to Kruger tour and the Vic Falls. And I look forward to reaching out to you or contacting you in the future, or hearing from you with regards to any questions you may have of this amazing destination.
Thank you, Angela, for this very instructive presentation, and especially for all the tips you have given us. Now is the time for any questions, so please feel free to write them in the Q&A box at the bottom of your screen. So I'll start with the first question for you, Angela. What is the best time to visit the Great Whites?
Okay, your Great Whites. Okay, your best time to, that's quite an interesting one. Okay, your best time of the year is June to September. Okay, we always have a prolific shark population, but June to September is the best time to visit this neck of the wood.
Wonderful, thank you. And so you said during your presentation that you also suggest tours for children, right?
Yes.
Okay, so there is no limit on the age.
Sorry?
No, in general. So in general, so now it's the next question. In general, so you would also suggest children to come on to South Africa for a tour?
I would, but what we do in terms of that particular tour, there's a number of ways you can actually tweak a tour. And in fact, our book has a family tour. Children need a little bit more time in terms of interaction. They might want a little bit more animals that we actually would be able to take them through. So for example, were I to do the first day, which is a city tour, and take them through to the Parliament, one of the things I would look at doing there is I would ensure that they fed the squirrels, went through company gardens from that perspective. It's something popular that children actually do. There's a number of sanctuaries that have petting options. In terms of the winelands, there's the opportunity, because I always say, even to clients that don't drink, that the winelands represents countryside, it represents history, it represents architecture. And then very importantly, because you've seen the emergence in terms of cheese manufacturing and chocolate making, you have those opportunities for families to actually see that both domestic animals and other slightly wilder birds, etc., in that setting, and have the grasslands in between your tour to potter around. You also need to remember we've got superb beaches.
Thank you very much.
So depending on the season, that remains an option.
Okay, so there's following the question I just asked you, there's another question asking, with family with children with ages from 5 or 4 years, will they be able to do safaris on the Kruger Park with their parents?
No, not in that neck of the wood. No, definitely not. There are one or two that can actually do it. They wouldn't be at the safari. It would actually involve somebody actually taking care of the children in the Madikwe area. And on a case-by-case basis, we would actually have to discuss it. One of the positives is that we are malaria-free. But we would actually look at routing them to a different area with regards to safaris. But generally, by and large, you do battle with them being younger. And when they are younger, it's not that they're going out on the safari. What they are doing is there is children camps that can actually assist with them. And I think also in the Hoedspruit area, you actually also have that, where they can come, they might not go on the actual safari, but then there would be interactive family camps or care that could assist with the children.
Wonderful, thank you for answering that. Our next question is, do you have knowledge with the LGBTQ markets in South Africa?
Well, Cape Town actually has one of the largest festivals in the world, so we are quite comfortable in terms of that. We have had one or two tours in that market. It actually we work well with a number of the hotels that actually are used for that, and it's to actually ensure that the guide is sensitive to the requirements of our guests in terms of what they require. So yes, we could comfortably assist the LGBT community.
Wonderful, thank you very much for answering that. And then our next, and unfortunately it will be the last question for now. Everything else I will pass it on to Angela, and she will come back to you. So Angela, how many nights do you suggest in Johannesburg City? 1 or 2 or more?
Well, it depends on what people want to do, and it depends on the clientele. I'm a city girl at heart, okay? So for me, I would want to do Soweto, but I'd also like to have a full day to explore the city. Different people have different habits. When I visit your beautiful neck of the wood, which is Europe, I'm not a person who wants to just drive past it. I need a day or two in a particular area to enjoy it. So I would recommend the extra day if it's within your budget. It just gives you the opportunity to actually spend some time in Johannesburg. Johannesburg is a beautiful city, coupled with the fact if you are a history person, you have or a person who appreciates history, there's also the Cradle of Humankind, which has the Mrs. Plett fossil, which is within driving distance. It's something we can embark on. So the second day would be my answer.
Wonderful. Thank you very, very much for this presentation once more, Angela. It was very instructive. And everyone who's listening, there will be a recorded version of this webinar sent to everyone who registered. It will also be available on our website on ATTA below past webinars. Thank you very much for listening.
Thank you, Sarah, for facilitating this, and thank you, everybody, for joining us.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.